What if I told you that Mass Effect has been putting things in place for instantaneous travel between the Milky Way and Andromeda galaxies? And the key to making it happen is dark energy. Kind of. It's complicated and involves physics concepts and mind-bending theories, but I'm here to take you through it all. Grab your favorite emergency induction port drink, because you are definitely gonna need it for this one. First off, what is dark energy? Dark energy is a mysterious force that scientists believe makes up about 68% of the entire universe. It's called dark because we can't see or detect it directly, but we know it's there because it can push galaxies apart and accelerate the universe's expansion. Basically, dark energy causes accelerated entropy of the universe. Now, how does this connect to Mass Effect? Biotics use dark energy to generate Mass Effect fields, resulting in telekinesis, kinetic fields, or spatial distortion. In terms of plot, Mass Effect has already dabbled with a dark energy plotline in Mass Effect 2, but it was eventually abandoned in Mass Effect 3. The primary mission that delved into dark energy was Tali's recruitment mission on Haestrom in Mass Effect 2. During that mission, Tali revealed that Haestrom's son, Dolan, was rapidly aging and dying unnaturally because of abnormally large amounts of dark energy in the system. The Quarians believe that the Geth were not responsible for this, but it is left unclear as to whether this phenomenon is natural or artificial. The only other mention of dark energy in the Mass Effect trilogy is in Conrad Werner's dissertation. In it, it states that dark energy causes a minute but empirically observable difference in the passage of time. Hotly debated when first published, the paper's theory is supported by recent data. The dissertation illuminates several instructions left by the Protheans on how to build the Crucible. We'll come back to this point later on. Drew Karpyshyn, the lead writer for Mass Effect and Mass Effect 2, revealed in an interview some of the dark energy plot threads that never made it to the games. Here are some of his quotes. Dark energy was something that only organics could access because of various techno-science magic reasons we hadn't decided on yet. Maybe using this dark energy was having a ripple effect on the space-time continuum. Maybe the Reapers kept wiping out organic life because organics kept evolving to the state where they would use biotics and dark energy, and that caused an entropic effect that would hasten the end of the universe. Being immortal beings, that's something they wouldn't want to see. Hold up! Organics using biotic powers and dark energy could hasten the end of the universe? In the teaser trailer for the next Mass Effect, we see Liara climbing a dead Reaper, and you can see her stumble. Why didn't she use her biotic powers to stabilize herself? Or for that matter, to climb the Reaper? What if she couldn't, and her biotic power is being restricted in some way? I'll dive into more speculation for the next Mass Effect closer to the end of the video, but that stumble really stood out to me. So, has the dark energy plot thread completely died? I think all the evidence points to no. And in fact, I think that it's going to be at the heart of the next Mass Effect story. Going back to the teaser trailer, we hear a person's voice saying anomalies all across space.
Anomaly readings all across space. Anomaly readings all across space. Anomaly readings all across space.
I've mentioned in past videos that I think these anomalies could be due to the Crucible energy wave released at the end of Mass Effect 3. Since Conrad's dissertation was useful in constructing the Crucible, I am going to speculate that the Crucible used or interacted with dark energy in some way. On N7 Day 2021, BioWare teased a poster that prominently featured a Geth, and a team of people that I speculated included Liara. If Liara is investigating the Geth, who were peripherally involved in the rapid aging of Dolan via dark energy, I'm going to speculate that she's looking into dark energy. The biggest hint for the next Mass Effect involving dark energy, though, is this piece of concept art by Marco Iazzi. Kaboom, who you might have seen around Mass Effect Reddit or BioWare social network forums, mentioned two things that jumped out to them about this concept art. The first is that this concept art is a sequential image of a star going supernova, and is titled Glowing Star Explosion. This is obviously reminiscent of the situation with Dolan during Tali's recruitment mission. The second point is the tendrils of some kind you can best see in the leftmost image. Kaboom speculated that these tendrils resembled the Scourge in Mass Effect Andromeda. Zooming in on the exploding star, you can see something very interesting. It looks like there are other stars inside of this one, which brings me back to my original point. What if I told you that Mass Effect has been putting things in place for instantaneous travel between the Milky Way and Andromeda galaxies, and this travel will occur via wormholes, connecting space-time from one place to another? What if I also told you that these wormholes don't just connect to locations, it also allows for time travel to the past? The Mass Effect team carefully hid all of the hints for wormhole and time travel in Mass Effect Andromeda, starting with the Scourge. The first plot event that happens in Mass Effect Andromeda is the human arc Hyperion is attacked by an unknown tendril-like cloud, which is later referred to as the Scourge. The Scourge is a widespread energy phenomenon discovered by the Andromeda Initiative in the Helios cluster of the Andromeda Galaxy. It defies understanding by contemporary science, and is described as a dark energy cloud or charged absence. Speculation about the nature of the Scourge usually ties it to dark energy, yet the Scourge does not behave in the way that existing theories on dark energy say that it would. Element Zero can be harvested from the Scourge, but only at great expense, as the Scourge catastrophically interferes with the function of most technology. Basically, the Scourge isn't exactly like dark energy, but rather closer to a charged absence or negative energy. Negative energy is a concept used in physics to explain the nature of certain fields, including various quantum field effects. Quantum field effects bring to mind quantum mechanics, which is a fundamental theory in physics that provides a description of the physical properties of nature at the scale of atoms and subatomic particles. Now, I am not a physicist, but I do play one on YouTube, so I'll try my best to explain the mind-bending concepts of quantum mechanics for non-physicists like me. The important thing to take out of the Scourge characteristics is that the Mass Effect team created a phenomenon that messes with quantum mechanics. Basically, the Scourge breaks the rules of physics. Another important point about the Scourge is that it is drawn to most technology. We see this throughout Mass Effect Andromeda, where it appears to be drawn towards Initiative ships, Remnant technology, and the black hole in the middle of the Helios cluster. As a result, I'm going to speculate that the Scourge is drawn to Element Zero. Element Zero, or EZO, is a rare material that, when subjected to an electrical current, releases dark energy, which can be manipulated into a Mass Effect field, raising or lowering the mass of all objects within that field. EZO is generated when solid matter, such as a planet, is affected by the energy of a star going supernova. Why is it important that the Scourge is potentially attracted to EZO? It's the key to making wormhole travel between the Milky Way and Andromeda galaxies possible. The lock to said key is the supermassive black hole Ketos in the Helios cluster. Also, apologies if I'm pronouncing Ketos wrong. I cannot remember how any character in Mass Effect Andromeda said it, so we're gonna run with Ketos. And I'm sure, as you can probably tell, I have no clue what I'm doing. Ketos is similar to the Scourge in that it breaks the rules of physics. In the Codex, it's described as a Kerr black hole, approximately 12 stellar masses in size. However, for a black hole of that size, the event horizon should be 30 kilometers wide, which is extremely tiny. And yet, Ketos appears supermassive. So, why is it so massive? I think it's because of Ketos' accretion disk. Its accretion disk looks to be made up of primarily bluish material, so I'm going to assume the majority of it is EZO. Since I'm also assuming that the Scourge is attracted to EZO, the Scourge is being pulled into the black hole, causing a positive feedback loop. More Scourge, which has EZO in it, being pulled into a black hole where EZO exists, thus pulls in more of the Scourge. This is proven in the Codex for Ketos. Continued observation has shown interesting interactions between the black hole and the Scourge. There is evidence that some of the Scourge's mass is being drawn into the black hole, causing continued currents in the phenomenon. So, more Scourge equals more continued currents of some kind. I'll get back to this later on. An extremely important point in the description of Ketos is that the Mass Effect team chose to call it a Kerr black hole. In astrophysics, the Kerr metric is typically used to describe theoretical discussions of wormholes. In a nutshell, the Kerr metric describes the geometry of empty spacetime around a rotating, uncharged, axially symmetric black hole with a quasi-spherical event horizon. Now, I have no sweet clue what I just said, but I do know that Ketos is a rotating, uncharged black hole, hence why calling it a Kerr black hole makes sense. And while trying to understand the Kerr metric, I found this entry that described something very relevant to the future of Mass Effect. In the Kerr solution, the singularity in an uncharged black hole permits closed time-like curves. Since the trajectory of observers and particles in general relativity are described by time-like curves, it is possible for observers in this region to return to their past. Return to the past? You don't say. Basically, the Mass Effect team put a black hole in the middle of the Helios cluster that could potentially allow for time travel to the past. Another concept art piece by Marco Iazzi, pictured here, shows the Milky Way galaxy in the foreground and the Andromeda galaxy in the background, similar to the teaser trailer. Importantly, it's named Establishing Concept V5. What concept could possibly be established simply by showing both galaxies? I think that they're establishing wormhole travel that allows for backwards time travel between the Milky Way and Andromeda. Now, all this wormhole travel is all well and good, but there's no evidence of wormhole travel actually being canon in Mass Effect. Or is there? In Mass Effect Andromeda, the main villains were the Ket, a species with advanced technology specifically utilized in their starships. The Codex says that the few Ket engine cores available for study show that while the Ket use Element 0 cores, their design is radically different. While in comparatively short-range environments such as the Helios cluster, they function similarly to Milky Way drives, Ket drive cores are capable of gravitationally contracting space in front of the ship and shortening it behind, creating an Alcubierre waveform that allows the ship to traverse longer distances quickly. This design feature compensates somewhat for the lack of long-range mass relay transport in Andromeda, though these drives are highly inefficient by comparison. I assume that the Ket might have developed this type of engine because the Scourge targets traditional ESO drive cores. You guys still with me so far? Hila Salai, dude, you lost me back at dissertation. But please keep going. So, how are the Ket drive cores different from the ones used in the Milky Way? Milky Way drive cores work by exposing Element 0 to electric currents, creating mass effect fields. It reduces the mass of an object, such as a starship, to a point where velocities faster than the speed of light are possible. Mass relays function in a similar manner, by creating a virtually mass-free corridor of space-time between each other. This can propel a starship across enormous distances that would take centuries to traverse, even at FTL speeds. Basically, Milky Way travel makes a ship lighter, and lighter objects can travel faster. But in the Ket engines, space is literally being contracted between 2 points to reach the location faster. So, the Ket engines are basically acting like wormholes. Wormholes aren't theoretical in the Mass Effect universe. It's canon, at least for short distance travel. The main issue with wormhole travel is that all known warp drive spacetime theories violate various energy conditions, and in order to move through space, you need the two ends connected by something. Many prominent physicists, like Stephen Hawking and Kip Thorne, argue that if negative energy is involved in wormhole travel, then it would provide a stable way to traverse wormholes. Leonard Susskind, a physicist working on these ideas, says that connecting particles of quantum entanglement were connected by wormholes, equivalent to a pair of maximally entangled black holes. Basically, a pair of black holes that are entangled with one another provides the connecting particles necessary for the wormhole to form, and a wormhole needs negative energy to be stable and thus traversable. And by happy coincidence, there is a black hole in the Helios cluster that defies the laws of physics, with the Scourge providing negative energy. Also, in the Codex on the Scourge, it mentions that the Scourge is the fallout of a weapon that caused instantaneous cluster-wide warping of space-time, and that the warping effect continues on a microscale within the Scourge to this day. So the Scourge has a ton of wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey stuff going on. Now, if Ketos is the first half of the wormhole, the obvious question becomes, where does it lead to? The Milky Way. Diving into Traversable Wormholes by Maldacena, Stanford, and Yang speaks about how two black holes may be connected by a wormhole, by a quantum entanglement. One of the black holes is dubbed the parent, and the other the daughter. As the parent evaporates, the Hawking radiation it gives off travels through the wormhole and out of the daughter, entangling them. In this way, the Milky Way black hole, Sagittarius A, acting as the parent, can be connected to the Helios cluster's black hole, Ketos, the daughter. Basically, it is theoretically possible in the realm of physics for two black holes to be connected to one another via a wormhole. And with the Scourge causing unknown currents of some kind, I'm confident that it might be the mechanism that allows the two black holes to be connected. In terms of both galaxies being involved in the next game, the teaser trailer and concept art showed both galaxies, as well as project director Mike Gamble's numerous tweets. So I think it's safe to say that the black hole in the Helios cluster will connect to the Milky Ways. Director Gamble certainly isn't being very subtle about the two galaxies connecting either. This is it, guys, I think. there's a canon way to have the Andromeda and Milky Way plotlines connect. So with all this being said, what can we expect in the next Mass Effect from Andromeda's perspective? With regards to what I've mentioned in previous videos, I think that Ryder and crew will travel via a wormhole from the Helios cluster to the Milky Way and return to their past in 2190. Since Ketos is a Kerr black hole, which potentially allows for time travel backwards, there is a plausible means to do so. And Conrad Werner's dissertation also mentioned that dark energy messes with the passage of time, so there's plenty of potential for time travel in the Mass Effect universe. Now, I know I debunked time travel for Shepard's return, but I think in Ryder and crew's case, it makes a lot more sense. I had mentioned previously that the key to the Andromeda crew returning to the date 2190 was that they were in cryosleep during that time period as they made their way towards the Helios cluster. Since they are in cryosleep, their so-called younger versions are far removed from everything. Thus, having two versions of the Andromeda crew existing at the same time won't cause problems plot-wise. All this being said, the teaser trailer does initially zoom in on the Milky Way, and Liara is the only confirmed character for the next game. So where does the Milky Way stand in all this? The last action that we as Shepard took was releasing a crucible energy wave that effectively took out the Reapers, but potentially also could have increased the entropic forces within the Milky Way via dark energy. This influx of dark energy could be a trigger for the parent black hole in the Milky Way to connect to the Helios cluster's daughter black hole, Ketos. And with Liara not using her biotic powers, it begs the question, was this an intentional stumble? What if biotics aren't able to fully use their powers following the Reaper War? The teaser trailer also mentioned anomalies all across space, so I assume that other wormholes might have opened up too, which might lead to other universes. I have been hinting at Shepard's recovery being in an alternate universe for a while now, and now with wormhole travel being likely, there's a canon concept in Mass Effect that would make it possible. Now I will mention, I do not think that the point of the next game is going to be opening up the Mass Effect universe into a multiverse permanently. That would be way too much, but I'll leave my full thoughts on it for a future video. And as a bonus thought, I can't see the Mass Effect team following a dark energy plot thread without bringing back the original character that was involved with dark energy, Tali. Wowza, this was an extremely long video. So thank you so much if you made it all the way here. I hope your brain is not as fried as mine is.